Okay, so good morning. Well done to everybody who's already spotted that I didn't set the homework last week. I'm really sorry about. So I didn't put the homework on class charts last week. So that means that's my bad. There is a week off from homework. Don't frantically search on class charts. It's not there. We'll do it next week instead. So today's lesson, we need to wrap up everything we've done so far. And it's kind of a little bit of a practice of the paper 2 challenge. So it's all about procedures and functions and parameters and using local variables and global variables so that we can separate concerns. That basically just means that we use procedures and functions to keep things in their place so that things don't interfere with each other. So you will need to get onto the VLE to open up CT6. It's got a lot of challenges to work through. Do as many as you can. You don't have to do them in numerical order, but you must please do this in either Mu or Thonny. Notice I haven't put links to create with codes because it's just like it would be in a paper 2 scenario. You need to be able to find those files. They are on the VLE, so CT 1 to 6, half term 7, and then it's got all of the code snippets in here for the assessment. So where it says question 1 student, you can find that here. You can open it up in Thonny and you can work from there. So I will pause the class in about 10 minutes and give you some help, but read through. My advice is always to start with comments. So open up the code that's there, read through the code that's there, run the code that's there, and if there's something it's asking you to do, then you can at least write some comments to do that, even if you don't know how to write the code that's there. But a lot of this will be easier than you think. So take your time, read it through, and we're on CT6. You will need the code in Mu or Thonny. Okay, we're going to go through question 1 together. It says load question 01.student.py. So in your paper 2 exam, remember you don't have that until March. The November mock is a paper 1 mock. But in that exam, you'll have that already saved, just like you did in the mock. I've got that open in Thonny over here. I would recommend that in the actual exam, you have your paper instructions in front of you and you have Thonny or Mu full screen. And now I'm going to have half and half. All right, so read it through carefully. Initialize 4 variables. Be sure to use the correct data type. So I don't really know what these are going to be. It just says complete the lines to initialize the variables, use a number. Well, we can just put 0, use a round, use a floor, and use a round. Well, why have we got 4 variables and 2 of them have got the same thing here? Interesting. So possibly one of them should be use a ceiling. We've got that over here. So what's this trying to do? Well, let's see. Enter a number with 5 decimal places is going to be use a number. So that's going to be a float. So what the rather irritating exam board wants is you to initialize the data before you use it. You don't need to do this in Python, but sometimes you get marks for it in a test. It's just saying there's going to be a variable and it's going to be a floating point number. So I'll just have a 0 as a floating point number. Use a round. What's that going to be? Complete this call to round to 3 decimal places. So that's still going to be a float number. And then use a floor. What's that all about? Doesn't really say, does it? Use a floor. Complete this line with a call to find the floor. I guess that means just to round it down. That's what we normally mean. So that's going to be an integer. And the ceiling is also an integer. So you've got different ways of rounding. You've got rounding to the closest whole number. You've got rounding to the lower whole number, floor, or rounding to the higher whole number, ceiling. So is that enough to get rid of our syntax errors? Not yet. My advice is also, when you've done something, just change the colors so that you know what you've done. Tick them if you're working on paper, or highlight them if you're working in Word. Super slow. Here we go. So I've made 4 variables, done it. Might not work yet, but I've done it. Accept a real number from the user. So user number equals, we asked the question, we just need to store a real number. A real number is another name for a floating point number, a decimal number. So I want float in there. Done it. Tick it off, highlight it, celebrate. Hooray. Call the floor subprogram. So a subprogram is either a procedure or a function. So floor is a subprogram. It's a function that returns a value. What value does it return? Well, it rounds it down. So the user number is going to be rounded down. So if I type in 3.7 and I call floor, it's going to round it down to 3. I've just used the floor subprogram. Hooray! Now the only problem with these kind of activities is you can't run it to test each one because there's more errors further on down the program, which is irritating. But at least if we get to an error on line 26, we know that there's no errors above line 26. So that does tell us something and tell us something useful. Right, then we have ceiling. Now I can't remember if it's seal or ceiling. I think it's just seal with user number. So remember, if I say enter a number and I type in 3.7, seal is going to round up to 4. Or if I type in 3.1, seal is still going to round up to 4. If I do 3.0 and do seal on it, then it's just going to leave it at 3. And then we've got round. Round will round it to the closest whole number. So either up or down, depending on what's closer. Oh, it looks like that's it for question 1. Ensure your program works. No validations required. Save it. Ooh, here we go. So 5.5. Name floor is not defined. So it looks like we need to use the math library. So I think it's going to be math.floor. It is in the PLS. PLS tells you what math can do, and it lists all of these things like math.floor, math.seal. Will it work now? Hopefully. 5.5. Hooray! Look, it says 5.5 is that. That's it rounded down, floor. That's it rounded up, seal. And that's it just rounded using the round function. It works. Awesome. And then it should keep looping until the user types in 0. Let's check it and see. Enter a number 0. Hooray, it works. All right, so there's quite a lot of code here to screenshot. I would copy it, paste it into the Word document, and then move on to question 2. Now, a reminder, in your actual exam, if it says save it as this, then that's what you've got to save it as. But I don't want you to submit all of those Python files to the VLE because I'm lazy and that'll take me ages to download them and open them and mark them. I want you to put them into the Word document because it's faster for me to see how far you've got. So for today, this is how I'd like you to do it. Okay, I'm going to stop the video now. You work through as many of these questions as you can. I'm going to pause the video so I can help people in class. See what you can do, and at the end of the lesson, we'll submit onto half term 7. All the best.